thought it was next week. Or is he gone for 2 weeks? He's in the last week, or 3 weeks.
That's expensive.
Yeah, we're ready whenever you are.
Okay, we're ready?
Yep.
Okay, 6 PM, we will call the meeting to order. We have 5 of the 6 commissioners here, so we can declare a quorum. I don't need a vote on that,
No.
do I? Agenda, do we have any changes to the agenda?
No changes.
Okay,
I'll move to approve the agenda.
okay, we have a motion to approve the agenda. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Item 3, approve the September 10th, 2024 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting minutes. Those are attached. I don't know if everybody's had an opportunity to look at them. Give you a minute or two. You looking for a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll move that minutes.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the meeting minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Minutes are approved. Okay. Item 4 is the Downtown Neighborhood Plan Stakeholder Interview. Jace, would you like to go?
Yeah, we'll just get started on this. So the commissioners, we've started the process of the downtown neighborhood plan. This has been, I think, in the works for quite a few months, waiting for grant funding to line up, and then ultimately waiting for the green light from the state DOT to let us go, and MetroCog to let us go as well on this. So we have enlisted the services of SRF Consulting Group, who we have a couple fine members here this evening. And we've started the public outreach portion of this. They had a couple events or tents at Bean Days, walked in the parade, and then an online survey as just kind of a general feel has been issued, and we're, I think, set to close October 1st on that, trending towards around that 10% of the community already that has been involved in that, which is a good number to see when you're canvassing an entire community, especially through an online survey. So now we're moving into kind of the private stakeholder meetings, which the Planning and Zoning Commission, as an approving body in the city, has been defined as a stakeholder in this. So we wanted to kind of get SRF in front of you guys. They have kind of a list of questions that I kind of put in front of you to guide some of the discussion tonight. But really, I'll turn it over to Luke and his team to.
Can I add one thing?
Yes.
SRF actually went in front of a committee and they were interviewed along with how many other?
4 other ones.
4 others. And they did great during their interview, and they were basically unanimously chosen by the board.
Yeah, we did a qualifications-based process, so they had to go through a interview process that was conducted by MetroCog, and there were several members from the city and other areas in the city, like the Park District, that sat on that consultant panel, and then ultimately SRF was awarded the project after that. So they've hit the ground running, and we started a few study review committee meetings, and had, I think, every other week now we've moved to progress updates. So just kind of moving through the process, and wanted to get in front of you guys and just have a discussion this evening. That's about it. Luke, if you want to roll on that.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Jace. My name is Luke Champa. I'm from SRF Consulting Group in the Fargo office. With me is Arson, new planner in the Fargo office. He'll be taking some notes as we chat today. Do we want to just jump right into the discussion questions? Or do we need to go through any other background?
Did you guys have any other questions on background, or?
I guess what's the scope of the outcome here? Is it like for like a certain part of the city? And what does that define?
So the main scope is defining the downtown. Horace historically has had a main street that's kind of withered away, and with a lot of the new development that we've had, a lot of the vision of the community has kind of lagged behind as well. So this is reestablishing a vision for the heart of the community. It's mainly a transportation-focused plan, just using the pot of dollars that we are using. So a lot of it is how do you connect Old Horace to Main Street and tie the new developments together via pedestrian or vehicle traffic, bike ped. But the main scope of it really is defining that downtown boundary, and then how do you connect people to that downtown boundary via alternative forms of transportation.
Yeah, that's a good overview, Jace. And we are honing in. That's one thing that one of the first questions we wanted to ask residents and visitors is, where do you think downtown is located? And at least at Bean Days, it was pretty obviously right around this location here, from Wall Ave down to, is it Park or, anyway, it's very centrally located around the grain elevators and Big Herbs. But as Jace mentioned, there's broader connections across the city boundary that we need to consider. And it is funded through USDOT. 80% of the project or the plan dollars come from USDOT. So we're being really transportation focused as well as land use. So, and the connection between land uses and the transportation system. So we're being pretty creative, I think, with some of the questions we're asking people. But this is really a visionary plan that will help Horace connect to funding opportunities for infrastructure, such as transportation infrastructure. And we are going to be exploring some other things related to land use and like parks and open space too. So that's all part of the vision for downtown. But we really want it to be driven by the public input that we're receiving. So I just checked, we're at about 475 online surveys, and that's in addition to speaking with over 200 people at Bean Days. So we're really impressed with the interest from people so far, and now we can sort of dive into the weeds with stakeholders such as yourselves.
How long is the survey open until?
Yeah, until October 1st. We will have it open for the month, basically the month of September, close it October 1st. So it looks like we're on track to hit about 10% of the residential population of Horace. And that's a really, really impressive number. So we're excited so far with the results we're seeing and the participation.
Yeah, so spread the word. If you have like friends, family in town, make sure that they know about this survey and try to get more people to partake in it.
And one thing you'll see in the survey, if you haven't taken it already, I do have some QR codes in my vehicle that I can kind of hand out. But there's questions in there that may sort of trigger a reaction from folks. Like you may see reference to high density as one of 10 options in the image preference survey, and the results I'm seeing now are that's not a fit in Horace downtown. So we are getting really good feedback that sort of strengthens some of the things that you've likely been hearing in these meetings, these commission meetings, and it'll help provide a little more, I think, defense for the Horace downtown area, the boundary that will be established when we get to that point. So don't be surprised if you see like a very diverse, set of options in that survey, because I think it's important to ask those questions so that people can just be honest of what they think, the identity and vision of downtown should be. So it's really exciting to see, the small towns sort of character options are really rising to the top so far, from what I've seen, which is kind of what we expected, but it's good to ask the questions so that we can sort of validate that with the community. Any other questions before we just do sort of I'd like to just do sort of our open discussion with you all about downtown Horace, and we can get started unless there's any other questions you might have.
I have a
Okay.
question. Sounds good.
Okay, sweet. Question one is, what are the biggest opportunities that you foresee in downtown Horace? We can, keep it short and sweet, or you could elaborate. I won't pick anyone to go first, but I think this should be maybe a free-for-all, if you'd like to, if anything comes to mind, as a big opportunity here. Yes.
Have you seen anything with rideshare programs with any of the other places you've worked with? Or is that a thing of the past?
We don't hear about it much anymore. It seems like that's almost something that people just expect to be available. We have heard more along those lines about like transit demand. They have demand response transit vehicles. They're not well utilized in this area, but it's similar to like a Uber or Lyft. So we will hear that occasionally, but it's not. I feel like it's kind of, the hype has kind of passed on that.
So yeah, if say you have two people that both work at Sanford.
Yeah.
And could the city facilitate some sort of a, have you ever seen a city facilitate like a message board as far as, rideshare type things? I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, I think that has been tried. I know there's a ride share
App or something?
City of Hawley might have done something or worked with MnDOT on the other side of the river. They have a little like car parking area along Highway 10 where they have a ride share facility.
Okay.
Map Bus in Fargo Moorhead, and they do operate in West Fargo. They have been trying to do more demand response, so smaller vehicles, like strategic deployments. So they most recently have been doing like to the industrial areas of Fargo and West Fargo. It was successful at first, but then after the pandemic, it kind of fell off. Transit is seeing a decline nationally, so that's a national trend. But these smaller areas are trying to do more sustainable, more efficient type deployments, which would be like a rideshare type system.
And then I was in Portland, there were e-bikes all over the place. So
Yeah.
I was just wondering if that is that,
We aren't presenting that as an option
Okay.
here. We're trying to tailor this to Horace,
Okay.
assuming that, based on the comprehensive plan, that we're not exactly ready to dive into becoming an urban center, so to speak.
Okay.
Yeah.
E-bikes and e-scooters present a whole nother like policy wildfire for cities everywhere.
I know,
I've dealt with
but
it in
obviously,
previous cities and-
if someone were to decide that they want to come in, we need to be,
You'd have to have some sort of, policy guidance in place, most likely, to kind of defend yourself. And I don't know, I think Moorhead and Fargo were both approached
Yeah.
by Bird or the Bird Scooter Company.
And typically they'll call to gauge interest on it, and I've gotten a call from, not here, but at my last city in Cuneido, I've gotten probably 4 or 5 of those companies a call, and if you just tell them you're not interested, generally they don't continue to push on it, but it is something at some point the city needs to talk about, but like Luke said, this is not a, develop the urban core center. It's kind of redefining just that cultural component of the community that has kind of slipped away.
And regarding Map Bus, I know Fargo's lost a lot of money dealing with their Map Bus, and that was brought up at their budget meetings recently, so.
Mm-hmm.
So where's the next closest downtown outside of Horace, like in Fargo, would you say?
It would be West Fargo, so I mean, how many miles?
Cheyenne.
Yeah,
Like all the way on
Cheyenne
the north
Street.
side of Cheyenne?
Yeah.
It's pretty far away, isn't it? So,
Yeah, it is far away.
the rideshare is, or the e-bike, you have to go a long ways to get to the next.
Yeah, for sure. So it wouldn't, I don't know 100%, if the market would be there. And we are asking people what their desired modes are in the future. And so far, that's not rising to the top. So, for better or for worse. as planners, Jason, myself, we probably see them more as a nuisance for Horace
sure.
than a good
You have to go
benefit,
Find them out in the rural area.
Yeah, and people sort of treat them like garbage and will throw them wherever. And
Their
they're-
battery runs out and it's just.
Yeah, it can be a mess if you're underprepared. I think the smallest city I've seen those deployed in recently was Great Falls, Montana, which is just over 50,000 people. I know Bismarck has them in the state. I don't know if there's any other cities.
Bismarck might be the only one.
Yeah, I think it's just Bismarck has them, so. Anything else on opportunities? For downtown, that could be, land uses or existing businesses to sort of champion or get behind, build some momentum. It could be as simple as like preserving what we have. That's an option that you'll see in the survey, which I think is an important one. It could be related to transportation.
Yeah.
Would,
So,
go ahead.
so the elevators, those aren't owned by the city, right?
That's right.
So what would have to happen? Because I think a lot of people in the smaller town really associate themselves with a big symbol like that of an elevator. And I'm sure there's a lot of creative people in the construction, architecture, engineering world within this metropolitan area that they could come up with something for that. What would that entail to try to, would the city have to buy it? We'd have to see if it's even for sale. What would
So I
that
think
entail?
the big reason behind having anything referencing the elevator in the survey was for the visioning purpose and engaging interest. Since I've started with the city, I've probably heard it 50-50 either way, that they can take them or leave them.
Okay.
What the goal to do is through that is if there is people that identify with the elevator, identify with the theme of the elevator, like that can help direct policy for the city for if that sells to a private person,
Okay.
whether that be a special overlay district or something that gets put there that can help guide what that development on that site may look like, or if there's a push to retain that, then maybe the city looks at trying to acquire. But right now, there's no conversation of purchasing the elevator site. Any questions directed towards the elevator are strictly for future policy discussion.
I guess, like, from my standpoint, I would like to, I like that the question was in the survey, because I would like to be able to see if a developer was to ever want to redevelop there, if they would be willing to kind of listen to the community and what the community's wanting, and try to work with the city to come up with something really cool.
Okay. So I think to have, as a smaller town, I think, opportunities would be to have some sort of, we're talking a downtown, so we're talking, it should be commercial business, something of that sort, and to have something that's, fly in here, something that's more walkable, something more friendly with some green areas, things of that sort. I think it would just be nice, maybe not necessarily like a park because that's just so big, but something that's not so urban, I guess. Something that has more of that small town feel. I'm not exactly sure, like, trees and sitting areas, maybe kind of a little court area where little shops, maybe, nothing real huge, but little shops and things of that sort would be a neat feel, and it could create kind of a little bit of a destination for unique shopping areas.
Yeah, I like that. That's some great feedback, and I think it would stand out in this region because you see West Fargo's tried a new downtown, and I'm not the biggest fan of that. I think they missed the mark a little bit there, but that was just where their policymakers were at the time. I'm trying to think. Moorhead's downtown is non-existent at this moment.
They're working on it.
They're working on it. Yeah, that's what they always say. And Fargo, of course, you know, they have Broadway, and you know, they were able to preserve that history. But there are so many small towns in North Dakota that, and people move here from across the state, that I think if you were able to have a unique vision and start implementing something with, you know, Horace's values and unique identity, people would find that very attractive.
Yeah.
So at least that is, you know, somewhat opinion, but I think the uniqueness of downtown is also what it makes your community so attractive. And the grain elevator does play a big part in that. So we are, as we can, digging in a little bit deeper again, so that, you know, policymakers have the information that they need to make the right decision for everyone. So
Yeah.
that's a great comment, though. I like that.
Do we need to develop a policy for automated vehicles and drones? For, say, drone delivery? I mean.
Yeah, that'll be pretty regulated by the FAA.
Okay.
So I don't think you'll have to worry about that. Same with automated vehicles. I know people are excited about the technology, but what transportation planners are seeing, it's still a long ways out, and it is heavily regulated. So I don't want you to like jump the gun.
Correct me if I'm wrong, the state does not recognize driverless vehicles as vehicles per century code. I believe there's some weird thing that there would have to be a legislative.
Yeah, at the state level, they'd have to change something. So you're safe for now, but you know, it's something to keep in your mind about, like, you know, the horizon in the future. It could be, if there's a breakthrough, I guess it could be like 10 years. I'm very pessimistic about those types of vehicles. And Tesla is like probably the furthest along, and they're kind of skirting rules and regulations. So I don't know what you'd be able to really do from a policy level for those types of vehicles. But like fully automated self-driving cars, I don't think you'll have to worry about it until the state like changes their laws and rules on it. But it's something that should stay on your radar.
It would be nice to have a place where, like a gathering place, where if you wanted to have like a food truck or something,
Yeah.
or a farmer's market or
Right.
something like that. Because right now, we really don't have a place to have any events.
Right. Yeah, that kind of ties into
Yeah.
kind of what I was thinking about, like kind of courtyard thing.
Like a community gatherings.
Yeah.
spot.
Like the little spot in West Fargo, what is that, the MIA?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Plaza or whatever. It's not very big, but at least gives them a little spot to have something if they wanted to.
And really having bean days, I mean, it's dependent on a commercial parking lot, correct?
Right. Well, yeah, the more you reattract some of those gathering spaces, the more you can centralize Bean Days again and bring it back to the heart of the community. I mean, it's great to get people from all over the metro going to different parts of Horace, but sometimes what makes those community events really go off well is when it's all within one similar area and everyone's kind of celebrating a community's heritage in the heart of the town.
And
we
people can
we
walk
lack
from-
that right now.
Right.
Be nice to walk from event to event,
Right.
so you don't have to take the shuttles and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But then if you have something out at Meadowlark, people driving through aren't even going to know about it because it's so off the
Right.
beaten path right now.
Yeah, we had some people ask. I was at the booth right down here on Center in Maine, and at the vendor fair for Bean Days, and people were asking, "Where's this? Where's this?" So we had to, point them that direction. But I will say the Meadowlark Park this year was super busy. There were a lot more people at that specific location than the vendor fair, and I'm sure later in the evening it got busier down here. But we left the vendor fair ended at 6. We left just after 5 because it was slowing down so much. But yeah, I like that centralized or like a community gathering space similar to MIA POW Plaza or something like the concept of that,
Yeah.
not look like that hopefully, but okay.
Yeah, it would be nice to be able to have like our Bean Days events in all together, so they're not so spread out, because call me old school, but I feel like the ambiance just kind of isn't there when it's not connected.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. All right, any more on opportunities? We go to question 2, which is the same question, but about challenges. What do you foresee are the biggest challenges for downtown?
I
And
think it's
going
the
to this.
mix that we have right now of, there's a number of residential properties that are kind of squished between commercial,
Mhm.
and it just doesn't seem cohesive.
Yeah.
Not that I have an issue with them being there.
Yeah.
But if we're going to try and create like a focus area, that would be something, I don't know how that gets addressed, or, I mean, you can't
Yeah, it's,
force that or
Right.
anything, but, or how do you make it so that it's, so those people don't feel
Forced out.
forced out? Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's a challenge there.
Right. Yeah, I think a lot of times, and I don't know if this happens often in Horace, Jays, but you know, you can define your downtown boundary, and that could include residential properties. And then I don't know if you ever rezone or change the land use of the property, while someone's still living there. I mean, that doesn't really impact them until
Think
it's
so.
redeveloped, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So usually it's just the market that drives those
Sure.
turnovers. But yeah, I mean, if you have a defined boundary, then you're kind of set up for when that day comes, even though it could honestly be like 2 decades from now
Right.
when this
Sure.
vision is realized.
Mm.
But it's important to set these things up, now to preserve
Yeah.
that. But that's a good question.
And I
Yeah, we
think
don't want to kick anyone out.
not only, the elevator, not only was it an opportunity, but it's also a challenge. I
Mhm.
mean, it's large, it takes up a large amount of space.
Mhm.
If
Cost-wise.
it doesn't, the cost of trying to do something with it,
Mhm.
or, whether you're tearing it down and putting something new there, or if you're trying to, take that and create something out of the existing that's there. I
Mhm.
think that's a challenge.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Kind of playing with the transportation.
Okay.
Drive-throughs, a car goes through a drive-through.
Yeah.
It seems like the speaker from the drive-through is a source of agitation for everyone within earshot. I mean,
Yeah.
no one wants,
No.
that drive-through in their backyard with people pulling up till 12:30 at night,
Yeah.
ordering some fries or something,
Right.
And I don't know if there's a way around that, or if there was a way to baffle the sound or whatever, but
Yeah.
obviously that's some of the resistance that we get for commercial, because everybody's terrified there's gonna be a drive-through in their backyard.
Yeah.
And then they're gonna be trying to sleep, and they gotta listen to every order
Yeah.
from here till, 12:30.
Right.
And I don't know if that relates with transportation, but I mean, it's something.
It's directly related to transportation and land use, because the only users that typically use the drive-through are
In a car.
people in vehicles. So
Yeah.
that's part of it, and that is a big part of it. And you can set up some defenses
Yeah.
through your land development code, and I think that's critical, especially in a downtown environment where you're trying to have people gather or walk from shop to shop, shop to restaurant or shop to shop. You wouldn't want to break that up with drive-throughs necessarily. Don't get me started on drive-through businesses. I have a strong opinion about those, but I think especially in a downtown area, you would want to set up your code to most likely ban them. I know some banks they sometimes do that, but I still wouldn't. I wouldn't do it. But yeah, I think that can be part of this, certainly.
Part of the discussion.
Yeah, and
Okay.
even part of the recommendations, you know, for certain land uses to include in your future vision of downtown and certain land uses to exclude, which could be drive-through commercial or auto-oriented commercial businesses outside of downtown. But I'm glad you brought that up. I could talk to you for a while about that if you wanted, but you probably don't want to. Not here.
I blocked off till midnight.
Okay, well, we'll just head to
Not
Big
me.
Herbs. Head
I'm
to
here
Big
enough,
Herbs
but
after.
I don't, no.
Oh, that's funny. No, that's a good point. Thanks for bringing that up.
So people a lot of times say that, you know, this is a bedroom community, and so
Mhm.
like from a downtown perspective, I would assume like things that would serve the community would probably be more of a focus, like the restaurants, stuff that they've been doing with, you know, like Sanford and things like that. Do you
Mhm.
see that like with shops that you have to have like a certain amount before it becomes like more viable for people to like visit from
Oh, right,
Certain density.
outside, and then do you have to have parking to like support that?
right.
That's kind
So,
of a question I
yeah.
have.
Yeah, I think you're right. There, especially with some of the more like chain type businesses, they're watching your population and growth very carefully because they're probably like, okay, when do we enter, you know, the Horace market, right? Like I'm thinking of a grocery store specifically. I think like downtown, it's important to have this plan and set this vision up so that some of those like bigger chain type businesses aren't trying to like just come in here, land right here on Main Street and just kind of blow the whole thing up. Yeah, there's green fields, you know, all around. I'm thinking of north on Main Street here. So I think, you have this problem where, you know, like I think Valley News Live article recently referred to Horace as a bedroom community, and this plan can help you say, well, no, we're not. We're here to like foster local business in our downtown. We're going to have rules so that developers can't just come down here and blow up our vision and our identity of our community. So I think that's a really important piece to this. And unfortunately, I don't think we are going to get into like a market analysis of here are the businesses you can support. But the plan will just be sort of flexible. I mean, you can set the rules over time, and the market will just start, ideally, being attracted to your downtown and provide those spaces for shops and things that people want. And you are seeing some of that in the strip developments north. I mean, I think those are a good incubator for some of the businesses that you might want to attract into your downtown. So that I think you're already seeing some of that momentum of shops and services coming to town, and this will help build it out too. And I think businesses too will see this plan, and just like your comprehensive plan, they'll have more information, more data. So, you know, making that investment here will be more attractive. But we have to like really think carefully if we can't on Main Street here, we can't necessarily have everyone drive like alone downtown. Typically, parking's an issue, and that's always a challenge in every community. So we have to think pretty creatively about how we achieve both things. How do we get people here and not just turn it into a giant parking lot, so to
I
speak?
mean, I think you bring up a good point about downtowns. Like any downtown that I've ever been to, the parking hasn't, the main focus really isn't parking. It's more walkability
Mhm.
and, you know, trying to figure out how to get people out of their cars and, you know, using
Into
the
the
different
street
avenues.
level.
Yeah. So,
Right.
I mean, even like downtown Fargo, I mean, I work downtown. The parking kind of sucks. You know,
Yeah.
West Fargo, still even there, the parking is not that great. So, I mean, we want to have parking spaces, but I also think that a downtown is really focused on kind of that walkability and kind of setting up the atmosphere of like community. together.
Yeah, it's about the experience. That's great, Naomi. It's about the experience, and you can drive anywhere basically in this region. And I think that's one thing you'll see if you go to other small towns across the state. People are walking. They're sharing the road with vehicles sometimes, but most of the time, Main Street is park on the street, walk to your, where you're going, or just walk around and see what shops you see, and then you're back to your car. So that'll certainly be a consideration of this.
Sidewalks
Yeah.
would probably help us.
Sidewalks would help for sure. Yep.
There is the big main
It's coming.
that's getting put in for like the bike and
Yeah.
the multi-use path there
Yep.
coming down. So, I mean, if you had kind of a parking area out more north or something that
Mhm.
people could park and then walk down or bike down.
We'll even have it coming down Wall Avenue, and
Yeah.
the amount of people that are biking down that and stuff, and even through Bean Days use that
Right.
to get from Lost River or
Sure.
Orchard, and using all those to get to those places. So the more you build that network,
Yes.
the more options you provide people to get here. And really, that's
Right.
kind of one of the driving things behind this is when that pathway system is all done, you have people that live all the way up in Southdale that will be better connected pedestrian-wise, safely,
Yes.
than people that live a block away from Main Street.
Right, right.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen other cities making accommodations for snowmobiles, golf carts,
Side by sides, four-wheelers.
four-wheelers,
Yeah.
that type of thing? I'm just
Not-
wondering, because
not
there's
not
a pretty
recently.
strong contingent of snowmobilers in town.
Right, and that's why we did include golf carts and UTVs as a transportation option in the survey. And then we do reference snowmobiles and I think the other category. But we think that's important. It's part of your identity here. There's no other, unless you get, east of Dilworth, Minnesota, there's no other community that really has that same culture. And I haven't seen many people sort of embrace that.
What type of accommodations could you see we could potentially make?
Well, you could certainly have policy, like, no motor vehicles signed on your shared use paths. You could consider maybe like an exemption during Bean Days, or just making them usable by golf carts. UTVs, we'd have to do a little research on what these do to asphalt or concrete paths as far as like a maintenance thing. But I know, in the winter, snowmobiles, if there's enough snow, they can do fine on a paved path. So there's a little research we need to do, but I think that's very unique and something we need to explore
Does
for
the
Horace.
snowmobile trail come into town, or does it turn on 100th and go towards Wild Rice?
I believe it turns on 100th, but, historically, they go a little bit beyond and take the railroad
Sure.
tracks through.
Yeah.
Well, because
What they have done,
isn't
but-
Bigger's kind of involved in some of their poker runs or whatever?
Right, but that
Whatever
was
they
the,
do.
That's owned by private people.
right, the saying that was the channel that they
Yeah.
historically have
They still
used.
do it.
Right.
And I like that
That might be
feel and that,
hard to
but
get.
I think there, obviously, if you're gonna do the motorized, it becomes a challenge, and how do you, I would think most people would use common sense and,
Yeah.
have moderate speeds and,
That's the thing,
and things of
yeah.
that sort, but it poses some challenges with
Yeah.
that too, if you get people that are out of hand, which is too bad, because it's usually the few that ruin it for the many,
For
right?
everyone.
I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like we already have in place, like Deputy Keller mentions all the time, like the kids aren't technically supposed to be driving these things in town, but the adults can, I believe, was the law.
Yeah, and then
actually.
as long as they're
If they're with an adult, they can, I think,
kids
at a
within
certain
legal limit.
age,
And then
but.
sticking to the post, they're required to stick to the posted speed limit
Sure.
within the public
Yeah.
right of way, so the ones
Well-
that are going through ditches and stuff.
But I mean, I see on my road, I have golf carts driving by my house like on a daily basis,
Right.
And it's, or the people bring their four-wheelers up over to the compost site in the summers, and
Mhm.
yeah, I see it a lot.
And it seems to be working pretty well. I mean, are there any major issues that you've seen across town with golf carts, UTVs?
I mean, I think for me, Sharon brings up a really good point, is that a lot of that traffic is used to taking a certain path along the rail line. And now that some of that land has been sold, that that is now private property. And so a lot of these people that are on their snowmobiles are not really paying attention to that, and they probably don't even know anymore that that's the case if you're not paying attention to this, stuff that's going on in the city. So I think that's kind of a challenge, because now we need to be very respectful of the homeowners that bought this land.
That's a good point.
So probably a good, trying to advertise, to make sure the word gets out, the communication. That can be challenging in this area. We have listed, our website is there. There's ability to utilize the paper that we have of record. Sometimes we get people that come in here to the planning and zoning, and they're like, well, I wasn't notified, I have no idea what's going on. And there's multiple ways that the city has created that if you get put on a list where you want to get communication.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know, I mean, that just has been a challenge to try to get that information out.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if there's any creative way of doing some of that.
Right. That's a good point. It's harder too when you're seeing so many people move
Yeah.
to town and they don't have like a line of communication or any sort of social connection yet, with the community, so, that's a good point.
Have you
Okay.
seen like the ATV or snowmobile stuff be successful? Like I don't remember exactly how it was laid out, but I know like in Yellowstone, I know that people would like go into their downtown areas with snowmobiles.
Yeah.
Not to say that like that's what we want or anything. I'm just curious if that's if you've seen anything successful. But.
We haven't done a lot. I would say this is the most developed and populated community where we have this sort of concern. It's typically in super duper small towns, as you would expect. So we'll do some research, because there are people that do this thing more than we do, as far as the UTVs and snowmobiles go. So we'll start digging, and we can probably put together some sort of strategy, whether that's implementation, project, or policy around these things. And I think that it's important for Horace to consider. So we can certainly dive in and look for some examples, because we are seeing like golf cart, UTV sort of rise to the top of desired transportation mode. A lot of people enjoy that and they want to do that. So I think it's important to preserve that part of your community. And it sets Horace apart from every other community in this metro. Aside from maybe like Riley's Acre, I don't know what kind of policies they have up there, but some of the rural subdivisions, which are, a few hundred people maybe. So this is a challenge, but it's worth pursuing. A little more info for you guys on that. Any other challenges? Otherwise, we should. Chase, you can just tell me to shut up if I have to. But
We've got
we
till
have
midnight, so.
till midnight. Okay. We got. We're going a little long here. Maybe. How much time did you expect, Chase? Should we zoom through these last?
Yeah,
two?
zoom through the couple
Hour
hours.
plus or minus an hour.
We got a couple left.
Let's put these two together. What do you think is required for this plan, this downtown neighborhood plan, to be successful? And is there another example where you were walking in through a downtown, whether that was a big downtown or a small town downtown, and you thought, oh wow, something like that would be great in Horace? Or were there specific elements that you thought were really nice that you think you could apply here? Just kind of curious about what you think will be, what needs to happen for this plan to be a success, in your opinion? And then maybe a cool place you've been where you thought, oh, that's wonderful. I'd love to have that in Horace. And just tell Jace if he needs to go back to the other question, but
Say
just
the
open it
obvious,
up here.
Which is probably the transition. Obviously, that's most things we deal with, right?
Yep.
Is like going from, you know, at least when I imagine downtown, your big buildings, loud lights,
Mhm.
and then transitioning to these residents that are all pretty closely impacted, right? So
Yep.
it's just gonna be the biggest challenge, it seems, right?
And typically bars get out at what, 1:30, 2 o'clock? If you've got a commercial district with bars and somebody's, you know, within earshot and they've got their 1 acre lot and it's been quiet this whole time, now they've got to deal with people laughing and getting in fights and yelling and crying and whatever else. Obviously, that would be something we're going to have to address as we grow.
So are you both sort of saying that a success of this plan will be to provide you tools on how to handle or prepare you for handling those types of?
I think they're just challenges that, you know,
Situation,
no
yeah.
one, you know, if you went around and asked everybody, do you want a bar in your backyard? You know, they probably, well, some people have bars in their backyard, so.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that, you know, with, you know, like a,
And that kind of all goes back to communication,
Mhm.
Yeah.
preparing
Well,
them for
in-
the changes.
Like, my husband and I have gone, and I have to figure out where it is. It's somewhere near we've been, traveled a couple times to Woodbury, Minnesota.
Oh, sure.
And I have to figure out where it is, but not like right in Woodbury, but on our way, it was like right before it or after. Anyway, we ended up at these restaurants that, like, you're driving, you're like in a residential area, and then it's like, oh, that house there on the corner has turned into the restaurant, and the community really loves that restaurant and the people around it. And I don't know if it's because that is a larger city and they accept that kind of traffic and but it just seemed like a community, like all the people in the neighborhood knew it, like kind of felt like when we walked in, like everybody kind of looked at us like, who are you and why are you in our little place?
Right.
But it was really neat, and we just thought, wow, this is interesting how, I mean, it literally was on a corner on the street, and then like across the street is a house and another house, and they were houses, and they weren't in it nice houses, not like rent, you know, like when people would think, oh, rundown rental, whatever kind of places. So I think it can work. I just am not sure what the magic wand is to make that work.
Yeah.
I don't
No,
know if that's something with our planning and zoning, that we can
Yeah.
have some sort of zoning restrictions. Maybe it's you have a restaurant place, but it closes at 10, you know, and maybe that's something that if people are wanting that kind of quiet zone time or something, I don't know.
I think there's plenty of opportunities around to look. I mean, you look at most of the small lake towns in Minnesota, Battle
Yeah.
Lake, Perham, like they're all built in and around these residential areas.
Sure.
You know, where I was at Boise previously at Hyde Park, and most of the buildings were old houses. And then
Right.
you have some of the highest property values in Boise surrounding that area, and it's full of bars, restaurants. I think it's just, as time goes on, and emphasize again with this plan, there's nothing that sets like a, you know, 5-year timeline
Right.
for people to leave. Like, this is a long-term, trying to get ahead for once, along some of the development. But it'd be interesting to kind of go around in some of those places to see what policy they've had, so there hasn't been those impacts
Sure.
to the adjacent residential, because, you know, we do have them literally the next block over on
Right.
both sides of the road.
Yeah, so I don't know if there's, like you say, to research what, you know, are there policies, procedures that other communities have utilized that we could incorporate to help? I mean, even if it's not, maybe that's the transition period for now until 10 years, you know, and then maybe it gets bigger and bigger, they can loosen up a little or something, I don't know, but, because as we know, nothing's ever in stone, everything changes.
Right.
It always changes.
Constantly.
I mean, I think that something, like, for question 3, what would be required for the plan to be successful, is really like getting some buy-in from some of these developers, because I always had this vision of Horace being unique, and I'm not really seeing a lot of uniqueness, and I don't know how to, like, yeah, we have our policies and we have things in place, but it just seems like when you try to implement something, you get pushback, or like there's just no vision from them that they, maybe I'm over speaking, but I mean, it's nothing new. Everyone's heard me say it, but
I would agree with you 100%. It seems like in some cases, especially in this region, there's like the formula, right?
Yeah.
They have a formula and they try it in every community,
it's
everything.
like I would like
looks
to
similar.
really tell them, like, why don't you look online or like go travel and like see what you can bring back to the table.
They're too busy, like trying to build everywhere. They can't travel. No, I think if you, I don't know how many communities have really, the problem that this region has had overall is that there was so much green field available that if someone said no, they would just go down the road and try there. But I think, you have the opportunity to do exactly what you said, which is like make it unique and kind of force them. Like, where else are you gonna go? If it's not the product you want, like, I'm a huge
But, like,
advocate of that.
like as council though, I don't really know how to do that because
Yeah.
I mean, we have like our policies and our land use but like, I mean, I've talked to Jace a little bit about like, what's it called?
Form-based.
Form-based
Yeah.
coding. But like, I don't know how to get people to have like a bigger vision that would be beautiful and something that like old time residents and new time residents can equally be proud of, instead of like a division that we have in
Mhm.
town, that I feel we have in town.
I think that your commercial area is so large, it's from way down there to way down there, and it's gonna go all the way down 100. You're not gonna have a main street. You're gonna have multiple streets of businesses, but it's not a main street. Because these buildings are so old that I don't know how long they're gonna stand.
Mm.
To build on top of them.
Yeah, I find it interesting
And
because
then when
like,
they built out the commercial area, they put so many lights that us people who are out in the country
Oh.
were blinded by the lights. That's all you see are the lights of the commercial district. If they could have maybe put the lights that are the downward facing, so
Right.
that they don't have the light pollution.
Yep.
I think that people are used to having it very rural out here, and
Yeah.
that is not the feel that we get now at all.
It's kind of funny too because there's a movement in the planning world for dark skies, they're called, even in some of these urban areas,
They need
and
to be, like in Arizona.
a
they
lot of
have-
states are doing a lot
They
of
have
good job.
low lighting so that
Mhm.
the birds,
Sharon wants to see the stars still.
I used to see the stars, I can't see them anymore.
Dang
I got the glow from Fargo and the commercial district.
Oh no, that's terrible.
Drive your golf cart down to me.
I've had
Drive your
some,
golf cart my way.
had some gangs contact me, they would like a little bit lower light too, so.
Okay.
and that can be
So I
regulated
know
though,
that,
right? And that can
um,
be zoned and, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of like what kind of lighting
And with
is
the new
used.
land use ordinance, there's been a push with the type of lighting that is in there. I don't know if it's gone full swing. Dark skies, the dark skies movement can get a little
Out of hand.
little out of hand.
I'm a mile away from the commercial district and it
Right.
shines right in
There-
my sunroom. I mean, it's.
I know that,
I can only plant so many trees.
there's some, I don't know how big the lead is these days in building and things of that sort, but some of that could help with some of these discussions of the light and even the traffic and utilizing things that are within a certain distance. So maybe if you drove a little bit of, I don't know if it'd be policy to say, you need to have some sort of level of LEED certified buildings in certain areas. And that might get to be really restrictive, but
Well, it would also force, someone to come in and do something different with that, so I kind of, I get what you're saying. And I think that can be, I don't know how often that happens in like a land development code, but it's very similar to point to what Naomi was just saying about something unique and different. That's, so I'm getting a theme here.
The other thing I saw was just down in Austin, in Cedar Park, and it
Okay.
seems like there's like these little medical triage places, like all over the place now. I mean, you go to every block and there's, staff just waiting for something to happen,
Oh,
Yeah, it's really strange, so.
how big is Cedar Park?
Well, it's
Austin's huge.
part of Austin. It's
Yeah.
the northern part of Austin.
Northern part,
Are we in
okay.
a bad part of town?
Were they
Were you
waiting for,
impressed
were
by
they
this?
waiting for you to feel better?
You know, Fargo has that kind of medical park area, right, like 32nd Avenue and 45th Street there in the like northeast corner. It's kind of become that area.
Hmm.
I think it's 32nd, isn't it? 32nd Avenue South
And
and
45th.
45th Street.
Yeah, like the IMA clinic. and
Yeah.
The,
So, I mean,
Pharmacies.
I don't know if you're looking for something
Oh.
like that.
But I'm sure our EMS here, they can respond to those types of things, but I just thought it was something strange that I saw when I was on vacation, that, I mean, they're just literally every block, competing
Weird.
hospitals and,
Interesting. You're not saying you want that though.
No, I just thought, I was
a
just
little-
wondering why that, why,
Why?
why there was a trend towards that. Is it insurance related? Well, if you've got these in your area, then you're gonna get lower. I know with fire
There's-
protection, you get
there's
lower
some-
insurance rates on your home with better fire protection. I'm not really sure why. Maybe they just want first dibs on, some sort of a medical issue. That way,
I'm
I
curious
don't
now. No, I'm curious now. They also have they probably have a huge traffic problem in Austin, where they probably have strategic folks like
they're
was there an
getting
ambulance
T-boned
there?
And like tailgated, so they're like ready.
The driving
to
there
stop.
is insane.
Yeah, so they probably just have to do that as part of their transportation system. I'll do a little more research, Chad, and on my spare time, and because now I'm curious what that's all about.
So you don't want that here. Okay, we got that. So are there any other additional things that people have seen when they've been elsewhere, elements that you think would fit?
So you think about like all this like small towns like North Dakota, like you were saying like the lake, they have a lot of these downtown areas where they're kind of like all joined buildings, but they're not like super tall. Do you see that actually being? It also almost seems like they're always old and nobody's really doing that anymore. Do you see that as just, there's no viable business to do that?
I think
we
it's
had a picture
Yeah.
on the thing, if you want to go over that. I mean, there was a picture of that. I don't know how well it did when you were at Bean Days.
I think that was the traditional.
Yeah, the traditional Main
And-
Street. It was, I put it in the top third from what
Yeah.
you showed me.
And when you look at survey responses, granted they're still rolling in, that was up there, the traditional development. And a lot of it developers just, for whatever reason, I don't want to just pick on developers, but
You can.
anyway, they are scared of that.
Mhm.
I think
Right.
there is a
It's a
place where,
risk.
yeah, it's a risk, because they don't know. And this plan, if they saw, hey,
But
the
Luke,
Horace
wouldn't
residents
it
like
be
this.
like normal to say like any developing is a risk? I mean.
Yeah, it's
It is,
risky
but
business.
that might be a higher risk. There's levels of risk. They do what they know will sell. I mean, any business, whoever's in business is there to make money. So they're gonna do what they know sells. And so doing that is a higher risk, so it's a little less palatable is all.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But if you were to like show them, hey, we had 500 people take this survey, and here's the product or the vision that rose to the top for downtown, they'd probably say, well, what the heck are we doing? Why don't we just, do it this way? And you will see, and I think Jason and I talked about this the other day, there's a rail district in Dilworth, Minnesota. It's like a brand new, it's not Main Street, right? They have Highway 10.
But it's
as
one
a-
of their various mixed-use districts that
Yeah.
they're installing. But it is, they're implementing that vision, that they're 1 to 2 story tall buildings.
Yep.
Brick facades.
And
Nice
there's
little area with-
smaller commercial space that's, probably lower rent. And it's taken off. It seems like they've got pretty good occupancy over there.
Mhm.
I don't know who's developing that, but.
Best butcher in the metro.
What's
It's
that?
the best butcher in the metro over there.
That's right.
You know, outside of like maybe the business sense of it, it just seems like that maybe fits best with everything I've heard.
Yeah.
The concerns but yet also being able to be more compact and get those.
Well, and as we go through the
Different
survey,
businesses.
right, with
Yeah.
the new land use ordinance, we approved the Old Town District. And as we
Okay.
go
Right.
through the survey and the policies,
Mhm.
maybe redirecting some of, heights and the
Right.
scale of some of these buildings to fit what this
Yep.
vision is, so then that way, it's a non-negotiable at that point if that's what our
Right.
ordinances are requiring at that point.
And I think, we were trying on that long-range plan to try to create 2 different types of areas, kind of
Yeah.
having this old town, more traditional, smaller town feel, and then having another area, because we thought that was where the traffic would probably enter the city more, because that looked like, working with MetroCog, it looked like that was where there was going to be off the highway entrance into the city, that could fit kind of the more modern feel for those who enjoy that type, because you're going to have both types of people within the city. So I think there was the goal to try to create areas that helped and bridged and met with the needs from different people within the community.
Yeah.
And is there geofencing in your survey? Or do you, I'm just wondering.
I haven't received an answer to that.
Okay.
But I will say, like 95% of people are indicating, that they live here. So
There's an optional demographic portion.
Yeah, there's an optional demographic portion. So once we download, like right now, I'm just looking at on my computer at a dashboard, and then when we close the survey, I will email the GIS IT people, and they will download that information for me. And so it's top of mind to figure out what data we have, but part of that could be, I don't think you get an IP address, but you get like some sort of unique ID, the time. There might be like a zip code in there, or I'll ask for all the detail.
Minot had done a Survey Monkey for Gathering Space, and they got a bot that was voting. It voted over 3,000 times for Site 2.
Mhm.
So I'm just letting you know what
Right.
experience.
And-
Yeah.
And so once you gather, the survey closes and you gather this, obviously you have the council and the city employees. But we as stakeholders, the commission, will we be able to get be able to see some of those results
Yeah.
and have some input on that?
Yep.
And help with the next steps furthering the plan along?
Yeah, for sure. I think we'll be closing the first, and I think the survey, since we have so many responses, it'll probably take about a week to present those. What I plan to do is present them to council.
Yep.
The following week after the survey is closed. And then what we do is we put together a brief summary of the results and sort of
Okay.
the themes and the
Sure.
overall vision, the items that kind of rose to the top from what we heard from the community. And so we will provide a link to that. I don't know that we have any other meetings like this
Okay.
scoped. However, you can sign up, and we do. I should go grab my postcards, but I have postcards with a link to the survey and also to a form you can fill out to subscribe to email updates.
Sure.
So if you wanted to use your personal email or even your city email, I don't think it matters. I can get those here quick, but.
Yeah, but the results of the survey, you would provide those like to Jason?
Oh, yeah,
Then
yeah.
that would be something that maybe he could email out to us as stakeholders?
Yeah, and then we'll do continual updates. I think we have it set
Okay.
up where council will, I think, get the initial updates.
Yeah.
Just how it's structured.
Yep.
And then, kind of trickle down to you guys as well, but
Okay.
me being your guys' representative as well, I'll be
Sure.
bringing forward some items as they come along too.
And we're gonna be as transparent as possible, so like I said, we'll provide a summary on the project webpage. We'll make sure the city has the data, you know, the big spreadsheet, so that you can review, or Jace can review that. I suppose anyone could really ask for it, if they wanted to, so. So far, we're having a fun time, and thanks for having us here. Are there any other final thoughts or questions? Something you want me to take away, as a major point?
Anything else? Okay, well, we appreciate your time.
Thanks for having us. I
Information.
appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you.
Now I just have to interpret my handwriting. But Arson's here, so
Scribe behind you.
we're in good shape. Does anyone want a postcard? I've got them in my vehicle. I forgot to bring them in, but with the survey link, or Jace can probably,
Yeah, we got it.
Sure.
Facebook's saturated with it, so.
okay.
We got them at the postcards, just for people who are online or maybe watching later. We did put them up at some of the local businesses in town. Big Herbs, Casey's, headquarters. The Grove was closed that night, so I did not get them up there, unfortunately. But then you can also take the survey if you go to the city website or the city Facebook page, the city.
Yeah, and the city boosted it, so I'm sure you're seeing an ad
Yeah.
if you pop up on Facebook as well.
Yep. I've seen
And like
the city.
for even, I mean, I've talked to some residents and they're like, well, I don't really want to fill it out because I'm not a fan of the developing or whatever. It's still important to capture the information that how people are feeling about the growth in the community. So I really highly recommend just really pushing it out there if you guys can.
Yep. Okay.
All right.
Appreciate
Thank you
it.
much.
We're all-
Thank you.
Okay, Jace, any additional discussion points for the evening?
No, nothing too crazy at this hour, so.
Okay. All we have left is an adjournment. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
So moved.